This is the most Areopagus of the Areopagus has ever been.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the whole conceit of the show is friends talking over coffee.
Yeah.
And we're talking on a train, drinking tea and coffee and water on a train, talking about pilgrimage, talking about life, making lots and lots of jokes, and having a good time.
I'm Father Andrew Stephen Damick,
And I'm Reverend Mike Lantzman.
and you're listening to the Areopagus. Hey, Areopagites. Today, as you could probably see, this is not the usual studio.
No.
Yeah. We are with our good friends, Deacon
Seraphim Richard
Rohlin.
And Father Jacob Siemens.
Hey,
I
Father
didn't
Jacob
know
Siemens.
we were reverending, though. I could have been the Reverend Deacon.
Oh, I'm the very Reverend Archpriest.
That's true. I didn't know we were...
Guys, it's not a competition. I really think on this pilgrimage, you need to focus on humility right now.
excuse me.
I'm not your spiritual father, but
So the fun thing is that we're here on a train, and
Where are we going?
all of the variables are outside of Father Andrew's control, and that's been really fun for me. So personally, really enjoying this part of the trip.
Oh, man. Yeah, so we are in Scotland, and
Scotland.
we're currently taking a train from Glasgow to the town of Oban, which is on the coast. And our plan today is we're going to get to Oban, and then we're going to take a ferry over to the island of Mull, and then take a bus all the way across the southern coast of Mull, and we're going to end up in Finnefort at the end of the night. And then tomorrow morning, we're going to get on a ferry to Iona, which is probably the most famous pilgrimage place in Scotland, I think, very likely. And so we decided, since the four of us are here together, that as we're on the train, and you could see the scenery going by in the camera if you're watching this on YouTube.
Quite lovely.
Yes, that we would have a discussion about pilgrimage today. So we probably don't need to do our usual updates, Pat.
that was the update.
That was the update, yeah.
We're on a train in Scotland.
So we're talking about pilgrimage, and we've got two guests with us, Deacon Seraphim and Father Jacob. Father Jacob, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is a priest serving in Cardiff in Wales. So he drove up here. It's 6.5, 7 hours or so, maybe.
About 7, yeah.
To Glasgow from Wales to drive us around and to be as our guide and traveling companion and subject matter expert, as it were, at various points. Yesterday we visited, I don't know if you can see this YouTube, but the scenery once again is just unbelievable out the windows. This is going to be very distracting the whole time.
This reminds me of the time when I was a little kid. We were driving through Germany, and I had my GI Joes, and my mom kept trying to get me to look out the window. Son, look at all this beautiful scenery. I'm like, Cobra Commander's got to die to Snake Eyes, right? Kill him. But now I can appreciate it. As
Yes,
a grown man.
exactly. So we're talking about pilgrimage, and I mean, let's start with this. Why don't each one of us share a favorite memory from a pilgrimage that we've taken in the past, and what that what that means for us, and why you carry that with you along the way. So I don't know, Father Jacob, why don't you go first?
Well, that's actually a fairly easy question for me. Last year we were together, as you well know. We went with Father Daniel from Blaenau in North Wales, up the side of a hill overlooking the Irish Sea to St. Edwin's Well. And that moment was pivotal for me, really, because prior to that, I had encountered so many of the various pilgrimage sites across Wales. It is, after all, a holy land. And I'd always processed it very intellectually. And there was something about that moment that caused me to sort of see it entirely differently. Yeah. And, I don't think when we go on pilgrimage that we can expect every moment to be holy, every moment to be a point of conversion. But that one for me really was. And I've really thought differently, both about where I live, but also about the nature of pilgrimage ever since.
Yeah, well, and in St. Edwin's well, I mean, we visit many wells, many holy wells, but that's one you can kind of climb down into. And so I think it's, the fact that you called it a conversion, and there's clear kind of baptism imagery going on there as well.
So is that when you got saved?
No, I think it was a remedial baptism.
Oh.
Dare we say a corrective one?
No, we don't dare say that. Uh, don't trigger the bros, Pastor Mike.
Make that joke.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
That's why I'm along for these things. I can say the things that you guys want to. I'm basically your fool.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Wow.
Cindy.
Yes, a sin eater.
Yeah.
Oh man, I read a book about that. It was like a horror novel.
Yeah, it was in the most recent season of Fargo.
Oh, okay.
That's
I have to
really
go
good,
watch
by the
that.
way.
Yeah. So Deacon Seraphim, why don't you
Yeah.
share a past pilgrimage experiences?
So, I mean, this one's pretty easy for me too. Over this summer, we took a pilgrimage to the glorification of St. Olga of Alaska.
Oh, yeah,
and
sure.
when I haven't ever told the story in public before, but when my wife told me she was pregnant with number 6, which babies number 5 and 6 were both miraculous, in the sense that my wife was healed by the Mother of God through her icon of the cursed root, and we were able to have more children. So it was already a miracle. And then as soon as my wife told me she's pregnant, I wouldn't say things like this I don't normally talk this way, but St. Olga told me it's going to be a girl and you should name her Olga. And so I wrote it down on a piece of paper and I put it in the safe and I said, we'll open it when we get the gender tested. And when she was, we found out a few weeks later that indeed it was a girl. And I said, well, Olga's the name. And my wife was like, really, Olga? But then as part of the process of I've been doing a lot of genealogical research, I found out my great-grandmother, who is named Olame Turner, but Olame is Scandinavian for Olga Marie,
Yeah.
which just means actually Holy Mary.
Right.
My very, very Baptist great-grandmother, her name meant Holy Mary, So at that point, it was kind of sealed the deal, because one of the thing about beautiful practice, and I first read about this in The Ethics of Beauty by Dr. Timothy Petitis, this practice of naming your children after your ancestors as a way of kind of, coming to terms with your heritage.
Yeah.
And so we named her Olga Marie Olame, and then that summer we went to the glorification. We got to take our little baby girl to the relics of her saint and be present for the glorification service. And
How many children get to be present at the glorification of their patron saint?
not
Not a lot.
And
It's crazy.
And while I was there, I mean, the Archbishop invited me to serve with the Metropolitan that Sunday. And so I was there, probably close to 800-900 people in the cathedral, about 40 priests concelebrating, 8 or 9 bishops, which means there's absolutely nothing for the priest to do.
That's right.
And then 5 deacons. And there I was, been a deacon for all of about 2 months at that point.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I was used to serving with the bishop, and so that was helpful. But I had this moment where I had this thought, as we're serving there, the liturgy in front of her relics. I had this moment where I was like, what am I doing here? I'm this Baptist kid from Fort Worth, Texas, and how am I in Alaska serving with the Metropolitan? Like, what's going on? What is my life even?
Yeah.
But then I just felt this overwhelming sense of, this is exactly where you're supposed to be, and this is home, and this is your holy land. And so I really, and it was an incredible experience for myself and for my wife, and I think one of those moments that will be forever graven in my memory.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Pastor Mike, why don't you share a pilgrimage experience
Sure.
from the past?
Yeah, so my wife was pregnant in 2017, I believe it was. No, it was 2016.
She was pregnant in early 2017.
She was. No, so in 2016, I was working for a church and there was some problems. And so people were scattering basically to the four winds. And I found myself there in the office, very afraid for what was going to come. and I had been looking for like teaching Bible jobs through, I think, the ACCS, classical education. Like maybe I could be a Bible teacher or something. And so I was looking around, couldn't find anything, and just very worried. Like, will I be able to, like, how are we going to pay for this? You know, if we leave, then I can't pay for the medical stuff, which is going to take care of all this, and what's going to happen? And so I went with Father Andrew to St. Gregory Palamas Monastery in Ohio. And I remember
Highly recommend it.
it was a beautiful place, holy place. You should go if you haven't. And so I remember being there and just constantly worried about this. And then just while I was there having this, if I was charismatic still or Pentecostal still, I would be like, God told me. But it wasn't like a voice, you know? It's just, I just kind of understood. And I had this sense of peace that I didn't have before. And this sense of, not audibly, but this, I'm going to take care of you. Everything's going to be okay. Like, I'm with you. And very, very strong sense of that. And it's never quite left me, even to this day. And so it strengthened me and encouraged me. And I went back to the house and it just continued on. And very shortly thereafter, I found my current vocation as pastor of Zion Stone. And I was connected with them through a friend of a friend, and I came in, interviewed, and they liked me and asked me to stay, and I've been there ever since. And so that's I think that's the first time I became aware of pilgrimage and some of the things that can happen to you if you keep an open heart and a prayerful mind.
Yeah. Well, that leaves me.
I can hold on.
So thank God I've been on a lot of pilgrimages and had a lot of amazing experiences. But the one that comes to mind particularly today, as we're here on the train to Oban, came the last time I got on a train to Oban, which was in the year 2001. So in 2001, I had just graduated from my lengthy career as an undergraduate student, which lasted a good 7 years, with a gap semester somewhere in the middle. And the reason it lasted so long is not just because I'm a somewhat irresponsible person, or particularly was in my 20s. Again, incredible scenery. I wish you could be here, everybody, to see this. I'm just so distracted by the gloriousness of Scotland.
You guys can come to Scotland. It's free.
Yeah.
You could. Yeah, you could just kind of be here.
You can hire us.
Yeah. So.
Hire Father Andrew. He really wants to start a business as a tour guide.
Yes.
Not even a little bit. Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So yeah, I was an undergrad for a long time because I was just doing 12 or 13 hours a semester rather than the usual 15. I was working like almost full time, and I added a major in between anyway. So that's why it took so long. But when I finally did graduate, my parents said, what would you like as a graduation gift? And I said, I want a plane ticket to the UK. Never been at the time. And, I loved English literature, and I grew up with King Arthur in my head and images of London and Scotland and all these places, and Wales, Ireland. And they said, okay. And so they bought me a plane ticket, and I arrived in the summer of 2001, and I traveled around for 3.5 weeks by myself. I had made a number of contacts through the internet, so there were people in various places that I just sort of wheedled them into taking me in. Hey, can I stay at your place? I traveled pretty cheaply, thanks be to God. I got what they called a Brit Rail pass, which I think you could get. I don't know if that's still a thing, but at the time,
Hold on.
Yeah.
unbelievable scenery. Yeah. The pass allowed me to travel like all day long for a certain number of days on trains. And so one of the first places I went was to Iona, which is our destination for this leg of our pilgrimage right now. And I took a train. I got on the train in London, and the train took me I don't remember if it went straight to Glasgow or if it went through Stirling maybe to Glasgow. I don't know. I don't remember. It's been so long. 24 years ago now. More than 24 years. And I did know that the timing was very tight, and that if I didn't make the trains exactly when I needed to make them, and the ferries and the buses and whatever exactly, I would not get to Iona. And so I'm on the train. I get off in Glasgow, and I have, I think, 5 minutes to switch trains to the one to Oban. And at the time, I don't think this is true anymore, but at the time there was only one train that went one way and then the other way every day. So there was one train to Oban from Glasgow. And if you didn't catch it, you didn't catch it. So I get off the train in Glasgow, and I'm looking for the train to Oban. And this is 2001. There are no apps saying go to platform 7.
Yeah.
And I was looking, and I didn't see any signs. It's just, I mean, for those of you who've traveled in the UK, there is still a certain degree of, well, everybody just knows this, and what's wrong with you? Is that not true, Father Jacob? It's just like
Yes.
Yes.
It is an ongoing frustration.
yeah. And so, it's much better here in 2025, I would say, than it was in 2001. But at the time, particularly, I spent maybe 4 minutes looking, and I couldn't figure out which was my train, and I knew it was about to leave. And frankly, I began to panic. I didn't see a ticket counter nearby to go ask somebody. There was no obvious person to ask. And as I was about to just, despair, I guess, I must have said a little prayer or something. God, please help me. Because I knew I wouldn't make it if I didn't immediately get on that train. Suddenly, a man in a suit walks straight up to me, gets hold of my attention, and says, "That's the train to Oban. Get on it right now." And I said, "Thanks." And I turned and I walked up to the train, and then I looked back, and he wasn't there anymore. And to this day, I have no idea who he was. I mean, I believe that God sent me an angel or
Somehow.
saint, or I was in Glasgow, so maybe it was Saint Kentigern who showed up in a suit,
Wearing a suit.
as would be needed at that moment. I don't know. But I got on the train to Oban, and of course, this train takes 3.5 hours. I made it all the way to Oban. I got on my ferry. I made it all the way across Mull, and then I got to Finnefort, the town at the end, where I spent the night, where we're going to spend the night tonight. And I had done a lot of planning, but for whatever reason, I had heard, well, there's places to stay in Finnefort. I didn't realize how small it was and how few places to stay there were. There are more now, as I've discovered.
Yeah.
Still not a lot. And I'm, carrying a massive duffel bag with all my stuff and a backpack on my back. And I just start kind of walking around the town looking for something. And eventually I saw a place that said it was a bed and breakfast, and I knocked on the door, and I thought, please, God, help me. And this man from Manchester peeks his head out of the door and says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for a place to stay." He says, "Come on in." And I got to Iona. So it was some blessed moments for sure. And I carry I've told those stories probably, I don't know how many times, but I don't think I've ever told that on a recording before that I can recall.
A lot of revelations
So
today.
yeah,
Train.
yeah. So here we are. But I mean, if there's any moment to do it,
Yeah.
because in some ways this moment rhymes for me, yeah. I mean, I don't know that. I mean, probably if you're a real skeptic, you're probably like, that's that didn't happen, or that's not a miracle, or But for me, that's what it was. It took me where I needed to go, and I believe that the saints were with me, and that they were taking me, guiding me to where it needs to be. And we've we've just started a almost 2-week pilgrimage, and we're just a couple days in now.
Yeah, can you?
But it's
believe
been
that?
very blessed. It's hard to believe we're still here at the beginning.
I think it's just the jet lag today, but I'm like, okay, this was a nice long trip to Scotland. You know, like we must be almost done. And no,
There's a lot
this
more
is
to
day
come.
2. This is day 2.
We live here now
Yeah, we live here now.
for a couple of weeks.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, I mean, what do you guys? I'm sure being pointed out.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Again, wish you were here. Just incredibly beautiful. Everybody.
I don't. It'd be really crowded.
There would be kind of.
There's some open seats on the train.
You're with us in spirit.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I guess I would say, like, what are y'all's hopes? I don't know. Do you have thoughts about Iona, where we're
I
going?
mean, I have a lot of
I know you've thoughts about
Iona,
Oban.
Yeah. Well, I have some thoughts about Oban too, because there's quite a good distillery there. That's right. And we will be
Distilled.
visiting. But I mean, you know, for me, Oban is a pilgrimage on my own behalf, but also on behalf of my family.
Iona, you mean.
Yep. Whoops,
Oban also. Oh,
little Freudian slip there. Yeah, Iona is it's a pilgrimage for me, but also kind of I'm going there also kind of on behalf of my people, and by that I mean my family. My wife and I love the Celtic saints. My children love the Celtic saints and the weird, strange, wonderful stories of their lives. And but also, you know, ultimately these are my ancestors. You know, this is, you know, most of my, I mean, Glasgow, that's where most of my
yeah. So both in the flesh and in the spirit.
yeah, both spiritual and physical. And to go to Iona, and then in a couple of I don't know, in like a week or something, we'll be at Lindisfarne as well, the Holy Island.
Yeah.
This is for me. It is a way of, you know, I'm going back, and by God's grace, I'm going back as a deacon in the Orthodox Church, first Orthodox clergyman in my family ever, so far as I know. So far as I know.
Yeah. Same for me.
And
Oh no. We'll talk. We can talk
yeah.
about that. Yeah.
to know about that.
All the revelations are coming
Yeah.
out of the train today.
But and so I'm going back there, and there's something, you know, in our prayer life, in our liturgy, in the life of devotion that these men had to God, which ultimately comes down to us. You know, there's something in my life and in my spirit which calls out to that, and to be able to kind of go back and just say, here I am. It took us a long time, but we made it back.
Yeah. So, Father Jacob, what are your hopes for Iona?
Well, this is my first time going to Iona.
So I thought
Yeah.
that you had been before for some reason.
No, it's
I'm the only one in our.
are.
All right.
And as you know, I've lived in the UK for over 20 years, and I've been to Lindisfarne many times. The northeast has always, that is the northeast of England, has always been very important to me because of my love of the Anglo-Saxon Church. But you know, it's held a huge place in my imagination for literally decades now. And when I was ordained as a deacon in the Anglican Church of Canada, dear friends of ours sent me as an ordination gift a book by an Anglican priest called David Adam, and it was just the story of Saint Aidan. And you know, the idea that Aidan had fear when he left Iona. He didn't want to go to this Northumbrian kingdom and serve as a missionary, is something that I've carried with me because I've had to move around a lot. I was first sent to the West Indies, and it was only, I suppose, 6 years into my ordained life, that is, as an Anglican, that I ended up moving over to the UK, and eventually, by God's grace, found myself in Wales. But because of all of those moves, the story of St. Aidan has been particularly important. And, you know, Iona is this place of, it's been a meeting place of two Christian traditions, really, because it is the pinch point through which essentially this pre-Saxon Celtic tradition was then fed into Anglo-Saxon England. It brings together so many motifs and such an incredible spirit that has impelled me across my own spiritual life. And so I really couldn't be more excited, frankly, to be going there for the first time in my life in the flesh and to touch Ionian soil.
Yeah. So Michael, I mean, I don't know what you're.
I'm really sorry that you have to follow that up.
Yeah, that's pretty killer.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you like? Did you know about Iona? What
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I've read enough to hear of places like Iona and Lindisfarne and Whitby and Northumbria. You know, sometimes there are references in a TV show or something like that. But I've heard of these places, and
Okay, you
I've
can't just
known-
like go off of Downton Abbey for all your knowledge.
I know. Well, Bridgerton, actually.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. My wife is actually very much into pole dark right now.
Oh yeah.
So I sent her a picture of the beach yesterday with all the stones, and she went, just like pole dark. I'm like, yeah, pretty much. It's interesting for me, these places, like knowing they exist, but having them become real places for me and not just references in a book or references on a map, which is the blessing of pilgrimage, is this, you're walking through an experience of your own into the experience that other people have had for millennia, however long pilgrimage has been happening. And for me, did you ask what do we hope to expect?
Yeah. What are your hopes? What does it
Well,
mean for you?
So Saint Augustine has this beautiful quote. It's one of my favorites, where he says that something along the lines of, the whole of this life consists in the enlightening of the eyes of the soul so God may be seen. And I think that going on pilgrimage, seeing what we're seeing, even out of the windows of this train, my expectation, my prayer for this trip is the greater enlightening of the eyes of my soul, being able to see God more clearly in everything He's made, seeing God everything clearly through the lives of His saints, who we hope to emulate, so we can see Him clearer. So that's my expectation. And if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be really annoyed. I don't know how to measure that. So
I'll let you know.
thank you, Father. Yeah. If I'm less holy in a year's time, then it didn't work.
Well, maybe.
Oh boy, don't put that on Iona.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Yeah,
right.
that'll be all on me, I suppose.
I'll let you have the last word, so I'll say something next to that. The last word on this question. I mean, I remember when I went there 24 years ago, there was this sense that it felt like God was huddled down next to the island. Like it's the edge of the world kind of place. You can see out the Atlantic Ocean. It's all very open. There's not that many trees. And yet there still was a sense of closeness, intimacy. And
What is it about severity of the elements in wide open spaces or on the edge that
It strips away all the things that
comfort.
Yeah, I mean, Saint Seraphim says that you cannot comprehend the mysteries of the Trinity on a full stomach, which I always like to tell people right after coffee hour, because that's when I teach catechesis. But the point is that when we have the comforts, it directs our focus inward, not inward, but downward. And I don't know. I was thinking about stories of certain saints, like Saint Seraphim, for instance, levitating during prayer, right? And
As one does.
the idea of something like that is that this person who is simply just not held down by the things of this world any longer, and it's not a rejection of. It is a rejection of the world, which of course the fathers say is really talking about the passions, not the created. And this is so hard to get right as an American. It's so hard to get right as a Protestant. Is that so often in the world that I grew up in, rejection of the world means you are, just like everything created is bad.
it's alternate institutions.
Yeah, it's like go create your alternate institutions. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
But that when the fathers talk about rejecting the world, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about the passions, the world in here, and quite frankly, just the lives of comfort and ease we all live make it much, much, much easier to just not do that.
Yeah.
And whereas when you get out there in a place where honestly, you're just so constantly close to death. I mean, the danger, just the day-to-day danger of living in a place like Iona during the late Iron Age. Holy cow. Sorry, more beautiful scenery. The absolute danger of living in a place like Iona during the late Iron Age. You know, you're just closer to death, and therefore you're closer to God.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry, I interrupted.
No. That actually connects with some of what I was going to say, or helps develop actually some of what I was going to say, which is, I mean, first of all, I should say when I went there, it was in the summer, and it was sunny, it was lovely.
Yeah.
Although the weather there can be crazy.
Right, and I mean, it's the North Atlantic.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
So who knows exactly what we're going to find, but I've been on many pilgrimages, but there's something about particularly the Scottish parts of my 2001 pilgrimage, which was just a few spots over a few days, that I felt an inner wild joy.
That's what I felt yesterday on the Strand.
And I mean, I would say that I am generally a happy person, and I have a great hope, you know, but there's a wild joy that sometimes I can access. And it was very much in abundance the last time that I came here. And one of the things that was fascinating was that because I was traveling alone, with the exception of the places where I had arranged to meet somebody to stay at their home or whatever, there was no one for me to go, hey, look at that. And so even though this is my second time at Iona, it's going to be a very different experience because I'm with you.
Yeah.
And I think pilgrimage alone and pilgrimage shared are both two kinds of pilgrimage that everyone should do.
Yeah.
I prefer pilgrimage shared, but I'll also say, so pilgrimage alone, I had a kind of an asceticism of silence that I had to
Right.
simply accept because there was no one to chat with. And I think that actually kind of helps to increase the wildness on some level. Because there was no contextualizing that happened from anyone else. It was just experience. It was a raw experience, and I had to just receive it. But I'm ready to also have, you know, what is wild joy shared? That's a feast day.
I was gonna say it's a party. Is what that is.
Yeah, it's a feast, is what it is.
Yeah.
And so I'm ready for this to be a pilgrimage feast,
Yeah.
to have joy shared. I mean, we definitely experienced it yesterday with the sites related to Saint Ninian.
Yeah. Yesterday.
But this is even more out there. I mean, Michael was saying, like, I don't know how you could top what we did yesterday.
That was the first day.
That was.
I mean, there was definitely a really liminal moment for me on the Strand when we were walking down towards Saint Ninian's cave. You got to go down and then up, and just as we get there on this kind of the short little cliff overlooking the sea, it's just the rain and the wind just started
So rough.
pounding.
Yeah.
And just for that brief moment, it was quite sunny walking back, but man,
Yeah.
it was incredible.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my hope is that my memory. I mean, it's more than memory. I sometimes describe certain really significant pilgrimages for myself as a monument in the soul. That the experience sets up in the soul a place that I can always return to.
Yeah, that's right.
And venerate. So yeah. So for me, this is a return, but it's more than return. And I in some ways I go to build that monument greater and to maybe and place another alongside it. You know. How about you? What are your hopes for Iona?
So actually, you gave me this question to begin with, so I've already answered that. But I would just say, yeah, the location is obviously quite significant, but to be able to go to our saints, those who struggled there, those who are known, and those who are known only to God.
And there's a bunch. This little island, which is only 3 square miles, has had a bunch of saints.
Has had a bunch of saints, you know.
Columba, number one.
Yes.
Of course, the greatest of them all.
Yes.
Adomnan or out of how you
I was always told Adavan.
Adavan.
That's how we're going to try to say it. I will say in
One of these
Latin, his
Gallic
name
elements.
is Adomnos. And so that it definitely influenced my attempt to pronounce it when we were talking the other day.
But of course, Saint Oswald, whom we had a kind of a brush with yesterday,
Yes.
he was in exile on Iona,
Right.
with the monks there as a young man.
So this brings me to kind of an interesting thing, actually, which I'll record something longer about this later. But in Old Irish, the terms exile and pilgrimage are used almost interchangeably. So when they wrote, for instance, in the Old Irish life of Columba, an important part of Columba's life is his exile
Yes, of course.
to Scotland, which happens over a psalter.
That's right. It's
It's a wonderful story. We're going to tell that story. We're going to tell the story on Iona.
a copyright battle that
Yeah,
turns into a
That's right.
a war.
What turns into
Okay, so it's just a Scottish lock here, as one does.
just the coolest, most beautiful thing ever. So
People watching at home are going to probably be a little bit irritated.
They hate us by now. I feel like lifting up the camera just once. But to do that, it's for our Patreon subscribers.
we'll get some B-roll of the footage out of the train. Yeah. But anyway, that's right. You have to like get a paid subscription to the channel to see all the things
Not
we're
a thing.
saying.
It's not.
not a thing
You get to go on pilgrimage with Father Andrew every year if you subscribe. Yep, that's. But
And he will give you spiritual counsel.
No.
oh jeez. But anyway,
Talk to your own priest.
I do feel like having me and Mike here together is like probably too much. It's just the amount of
No,
heckling.
come at me, bro.
The amount of heckling. But
Father
anyway.
Jacob is too polite and too
yeah,
Canadian to
so
to
Canadian,
heckle.
just sitting there in the middle of it all, just taking it.
like the most obscene thing that he's said so far in this journey has been flippin' heck.
Yeah, that's
Flippin' heck.
that's actually not true, chat. But anyway, who is chat, by the way? I don't know.
I don't know. Which I've decided is Canadian cussing.
Yeah.
Flippin' heck.
Flippin' heck. Yeah. So
Or my favorite dad swear, Flapjack and Dickens.
There you go.
oh,
That's
pretty
Which
good.
you've said on this podcast many times.
I think it originated on this podcast,
Oh,
to be honest.
anyway, what I was saying is that if you read in the Old Irish lives, so for instance, there's an Old Irish life of Saint Columba, which is a little later than the one by Saint Adovan, but it's really beautiful, and it spends a lot of time on, for instance, like the various prophecies of Columba's birth and so on. But much of Columba's life, is defined by his exile that he goes into, and that exile he refers to as his pilgrimage. And there is this sense that we are all, as a Christian, to live in a way worthy of the name, one of the things you have to do is live as a stranger and an exile in the world. And it's very hard. I mean, obviously it's hard. We know it's hard because we keep getting it wrong. It's very hard to also reconcile that with the need to basically build places and establish places. But that is the paradox of our faith. When you go into exile or into pilgrimage, and you go to a place and you pray in that place long enough and you make that place holy, then that becomes a site of future pilgrimage for someone else.
Yeah,
So,
that's how it works.
and with God's help, we're beginning to get some of these places in our own country, and through the prayers of those saints, I hope to bring some grace back with me. I don't know how else to say it.
Well, on that note, I was just telling a story yesterday to Father Augustine, who, for those of you who are going to be joining us on the larger amount of content created to this pilgrimage and not just this Areopagus episode,
You're definitely gonna get to hear.
you'll get to meet Father Augustine, yeah. And I have to just say, I mean, his name is Father Augustine Macbeth. It's actual
How great,
his actual
chat? How great is that, chat?
and he's just been elected as a bishop, and so as far as we know, he's going to be the first Scottish Orthodox bishop since the Great Schism. Just think of that. for a
Exciting
second. Yes,
times.
it's amazing.
Exciting times.
But anyways, I was just telling him about a pilgrimage that I took to Manathos now almost 8 years ago, and I was walking with one of the higher monks in Simeona Petra, and I might have told this story on the Areopagus before, I don't recall. And suddenly I had a thought, and I said to him, Father, I feel like it's just not fair that I get to be here in this amazing holy place, and everyone back home is not here.
Yeah.
And he said, God sent you here so that you would take what you receive and bring it back. And I think that that is also one of the facets, one of the duties of pilgrimage.
Yeah.
Is to receive the experience and then to tell the stories. To tell the stories. And I mean, in a way, this kind of defines what I spend most of my time doing, actually.
I mean, you talk about monuments in your soul. I think of it as sort of becoming a living book for the rest of your community, you know, and you've got to go back and be that book. So I'm going to go back to my children who would dearly love to come to Scotland, and God willing, someday they will.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go back to my children, and I'm going to tell them the stories and, you know, try to do it well and beautifully. And we're doing that for you guys online as well. And I think we were talking yesterday. Honestly, it feels super weird to me to just like be going to these places and, you know, pulling out a camera and things like that. But also, like, that is actually kind of why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Through the generosity of Ancient Faith and people who donate to Ancient Faith.
Exactly.
You guys are making this happen. And so we're doing this for you.
If you're one of the donors, I mean, seriously, people have donated in the past to make my pilgrimages and these pilgrimage documentaries possible. That's because that's what we're doing. This is not just an Areopagus episode.
Right.
We didn't go all the way to Scotland to film an Areopagus on a train.
Although I have that level of commitment.
Absolutely, why not?
I would do it.
But if you're one of those people that has donated, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, we're praying for all those who have been kind and you know, if you haven't donated yet, you know, please, you know, you can drop a few dollars.
It was not in the notes to turn that into a sales pitch, by the way.
No.
I'm
just grateful. I mean, we've already experienced generosity along the way. I mean, this is one of the things about pilgrimage is that you tend to receive a lot of generosity.
Yes.
But you also need to be generous as well.
That's right.
It's really important to be generous along the way.
I feel like my prayer list is racking up the longer I'm here.
Yes.
We're interacting with people and they're starting to tell us things about themselves or telling even somebody else about themselves in our presence, and just the urge and desire, well, let me pray for you while I'm here. Let me add that person. Like, you don't have to give me specifics, just what's your name? What's their name? Let me write it down. Let me bring that prayer while we're here.
I want to pick up on something that Deacon Seraphim said, though, about you know, us being sojourners, and the idea that, you know, while we may fall in love with a place because of its, you know, physical beauty or, you know, because of its particular sanctity, essentially these places are sanctifying other places. And, you know, so you were just addressing, Father Andrew, the viewers a moment ago with gratitude. But whether it's, you know, the grace that we're experiencing is distributed through the airwaves or whatever we call it nowadays, or by our own hands when we, in our minds and our hearts as we bring these things home, what we're doing is creating new pilgrimage places. So I'm thinking about my own family back home. I mean, I'm much closer to mine physically than all of you are. But when I go back home, I will carry with me all of the things I've collected. And, you know, in many ways, I think that transforms my home into its own pilgrimage place, right? And I'm, you know, maybe one day, I'm not exactly on a fast track towards sainthood, but, you know, were one day I to be glorified as a saint, that would be incredible.
The fast track is typically very, very painful.
At least usually involves an axe, or sometimes they put you in a bag full of snakes and then throw you off a cliff.
Or,
which is a real way they used to
a heated up burning bronze bull, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
In the meantime, I mean, when our kids go out and come back, and I mean, your kids, Father Andrew, a few of them are sort of adult. Half of mine are adult, and they come back. For them, that's a type of pilgrimage because they're coming back and being refreshed in the they're being refreshed in the in what it is we've sought to give them as parents. And, you know, it's not that dissimilar to what we're doing right now as we broadcast these conversations, because these conversations arise out of the experience that we're having, and essentially we're seeking to communicate the very things that we receive in places like Whithorn yesterday, in places like Iona tomorrow, and God willing, thereby sanctifying the experience of others.
So I have a question for you, Father Jacob. So you live here in the UK. I mean, hours and hours from here, and we're all Americans. Christianity has been present in the British Isles, for probably 2,000 years.
Yes.
There's good reason to believe it arrives in the 1st century. And of course, there's the traditions about Saint Aristobulus, who is one of the...
Which by the way, is an extremely ancient tradition. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very, very ancient.
Yeah. So...
It shows up in old Athonite manuscripts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
from before Athos.
And if folks don't know, I mean, St. Aristobulus is one of the apostles of the 70.
Yeah.
In other words, sent by Jesus himself.
Yeah.
In any event, even...
Actually, all missionaries are sent by Jesus.
Yes, you know what I mean.
I don't know if you know this.
Thanks. I've heard that, actually, yeah. But in any event, the point being that because of the presence of Christianity in the British Isles for so long, you are surrounded by pilgrimage places. I mean, we went on pilgrimage in Wales, your own country. But, I mean, England, Wales, Scotland, Cornwall, Ireland, Northern Ireland. I mean, it just goes on and on. There's so many places to go. What's that like? I mean, as Americans, it feels so weird.
I've actually had that question from somebody, I think, who lives in Ontario, Canada, asking me sort of how it is. They had watched something I had done on Orthodoxy in the Isles, and they were concerned because they live in a place where you don't have that tradition.
It feels sad sometimes.
But, partly what I just said a moment ago is meant to encourage, I think, everybody insofar as we're creating pilgrimage spaces as we go about our lives and as we collect the grace that is showered upon us.
That is part of why these early Celtic saints resonate so deeply with me, I think, is that they were going not just into wild, dangerous parts of the world, but into barbarian lands, like the most barbarian of the barbarian lands.
Yeah, I mean, as American Orthodox Christians, in some ways, I mean, we're not. It's a new barbarism in some ways.
Oh, but
we may not yet have the places already established, but it just humbly, I say this humbly, it is up to us to do what those saints did.
Yeah, of course.
Like we're replicating what they did.
I mean, that's the project. I mean,
that's the project.
That's literally the Great Commission. Like, it's not hubris at all to say that. I mean, that's what we are there to do.
Go make new pilgrimage places.
Yeah.
And I used to think, I mean, because I'm a transplanted Canadian and Wales is my adopted home, I did a course back in the mid-1990s in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and was living for a while in a house right on what's called the Northwestern Arm. And I would stand sort of in the among the stones where the water meets the shoreline, and I would gaze at the water and think, this is the same water under the same sky that communicated to the soul of Saint Aidan. Of we know the legend of Saint Brendan the Navigator.
Yeah.
And he sailed across that sea, and so we are participating in some way. So in that respect, it is different because I've got St. Tylo's relics about 5-10 minute walk from my front door.
Arthur Machen wrote a great story about St. Tylo's bell, by the way. But anyway, since we were talking about him yesterday.
Yeah. No, I will be following up on Arthur Machen. But to have that is incredible. But I suppose I began processing that proximity even when I was thousands of kilometers away. There is a sense in which, I suppose, you look up at the moon at night and you think, this actually arises when I'm teaching catechism, because I do this this session on what I call sort of natural religion, and we then move from that into revelation and the idea of God's self-disclosure. But the sense that the Ojibwe in Ontario or around the Great Lakes would gaze up into the sky and see the Northern Lights, and how that must have communicated something of the awesomeness and the beauty of God to them. Well, we have the same opportunities. Might not be the Northern Lights in Texas or in Pennsylvania, and it isn't here either. But there are these things that bind us together to this beautiful, sanctified history. And it's up to us to make something of it. And I think that's the big thing. I could easily live where I do and pay it no heed at all.
And obviously,
people do.
and obviously most of Britain, that's what's happening
That's
now.
the current state.
So I suppose if I feel anything in response to this constant spiritual stimuli, it has to be the impulsion to share it, to actually draw people's attention to it, because it's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a really good final word,
I
actually.
think so, yeah.
Any other final thoughts that anybody wants to share?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just trying to think of what am I going to bring home with me on the trip? To my parish, to my family. And that's something I'll be thinking about as we continue on through all this. But I remember the last time I went with you to St. Gregory Palamas, I actually preached a sermon because you said, one of the first things that was said to you when you went to St. Gregory Palamas is one of the monks actually said that to you. What you've received, bring with you. And so I actually preached that as a sermon, I think 2 years ago now. And I think one of the ways to do that is trying to find the lines of continuity, and identifying those, focusing on those, and then trying to live them and do them. So I don't want it just to be like, what can I feel when I'm at this space and at this space, but like, what is God actually doing in me and in us, and how can I make that a part of the lived experience of my family, and how can I make that part of the lived experience of my church? Not to get into quote unquote lived experience, but that idea of sharing something spiritual that other people may not have a chance to access or experience themselves, only kind of secondhand through you.
Yeah. That's a good word. Well, Areopagites, thanks for joining us today here on the train from Glasgow to Oban. It's been a beautiful conversation.
I think these are called trains. They run through this land called Europa.
Oh man,
Europe.
My ears are bleeding.
Yes, exactly.
He was doing this bit in the train station, and Father Andrew was just dying of embarrassment, which I really enjoyed.
Yes. My eyes rolled so far back in my head that I'm pretty much sure that I could see my amygdala.
Yeah.
But thanks for joining us, everybody. This has been a great conversation, and thanks for all of your support. And
Like, share, subscribe, smash that like button,
Yes.
ring the bell, do the
exactly,
the things.
and
you guys know.
yeah.
What's the website? ancientfaith.com/support.
/support.
Press the giving button, because that's how all this works.
Exactly. Well, I'm Father Andrew Stephen Damick.
I'm Pastor Mike, avoiding the Slough of Despond Landsman.
I'm the Reverend Deacon Seraphim Richard Rohlin.
And I'm merely Father Jacob Siemens.
And this has been a listener-supported presentation of Ancient Faith Radio.